Canva coming into the mix sort of decentralizes, democratizes design.
Reports can be quite bland and boring, or they can be engaging and compelling. We've continued the fun of Canva, but brought it into an enterprise setting, Canva Courses. And that works in both ways. One, it's a mechanism for us to upskill or empower organizations to upskill their staff on Canva, but also actually to upskill their staff across the board.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Our Own Devices. This time we are going to talk about a product a lot of us use a lot of, and I use it personally quite a bit. In fact, there was a time when people used to think or wonder how this boring journalist suddenly has become so good at making PPTs, and that is all thanks to Canva. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners also use it in different ways, and that is, I think, the beauty of Canva is that you can use it across a lot of your use cases, which could be from work to play. And the interesting thing that we're going to talk about this time is how Canva is focusing a little bit more on the work part of what can be done with this wonderful platform. To speak about this, we have with us Robert Kawalsky, who is the head of product at Canva. So, Robert, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And so exciting to hear that you love the product. And I couldn't have described it better myself. That work to play transition is really something people love about it.
Yeah, it's also because in my household, I use it and so does my son, who's in school. So I think it captures the entire spectrum of what can be done.
Absolutely. My household is exactly the same. It's one of my son's favorite activities. It's like I can't escape work because that's what he likes to do on the weekend.
Yeah, I think I should start by asking you, what is Canva up to? Because we guess there are a lot of new announcements that are coming up.
Yeah, thank you. I'd love to share them. I think what would be helpful is to share some context to how we got here first. So, we've really spent a decade now building Canva to empower every person to design. And we wanted to build a platform that enabled, people like yourself, people like myself, who aren't professionally trained designers, to create compelling, engaging visual communications. As we look to the next decade, what we're looking to do now is to really focus as well on helping organizations to design. And what that means for us is really empowering organizations to empower their entire workforce with the capabilities that people have grown to love about Canva, but to do it in a way that that meets all the requirements of a large enterprise. So today we've already found that about 95% of the Fortune 500 have teams using Canva. And what we're really empowering them to do now is to sort of enhance that organic usage that people have adopted simply through the love of the product, with all the capabilities from administration to reporting to the necessary compliance and security requirements, to really deploy Canva enterprise-wide to solve some of the really clear pain points that people have today in the design process as an enterprise. And we can talk through some of them. What we're finding at a high level is that whilst visual communication has never been more important, the complexity of navigating an organization and having to use so many tools and so much new technology and the rise of AI and everything that's doing has actually created a lot of complexity, and we're looking to address that with a single platform.
So, as you tell me that Canva now has an enterprise version, the one thing that immediately strikes me is that it's also going to change the way large companies work, right? So primarily, like if you're looking at design, for instance, it is a department, it is a specialized department, and it is done by that department. Canva coming into the mix sort of decentralizes, democratizes design, right? So it's going to shake up things. So is there a view that you guys have on how that's going to happen? So do you also need to support that in some way, because everybody's going to be using Canva at some point in the company?
Totally. I mean, I think you're hitting on exactly the right thing. That what we're finding is design and or visual communication, more specifically, is really a need that exists across every function in an organization. There is obviously that traditional cohort of users in the creative teams, and I'd love to talk about what we're doing for them in particular. But communicating visually is now really a need, whether you're in sales and you're producing sales collateral for your potential prospects, whether you're in marketing, producing all that marketing material, if you're in the HR or learning and development teams, creating training materials or onboarding materials. So it's really every aspect of an organization, and really every knowledge worker now has this need to communicate visually. What hasn't been possible without Canva is to really do it well. And that's what we're looking to do, is to make it easy to do it well, but to do it in a way that is safe, secure, and on brand for the entire organization. So it's really about empowering people for these jobs that they're already trying to do, but haven't been that easy to accomplish successfully in the past.
So, at the platform level, to cater to enterprise, you also need to scale up on a lot of things, right? Because some of these companies are very, very, very finicky about user safety, about securing their systems, and if they're going to plug in Canva, Canva needs to be up to that gold standard, right? So how are you catering to that? Is that challenging?
Absolutely. I think it is absolutely important and central to what we are announcing, is with this enterprise plan, ensuring that it's enterprise grade. And it's all those things you describe. I think you really need to be a platform that can be trusted. So we've ensured that we've built all the requirements around things like single sign-on, reporting, administration, being able to organize and manage teams at a cross-company level. So there's a huge amount of capabilities that are required by IT teams to successfully deploy any software product. What we've been really focused on is making sure we sort of meet and exceed those expectations. It also brings sort of Canva's delightful twist on software to all those things. So if you look at for example, the reporting functionalities, reports can be quite bland and boring, or they can be engaging and compelling and more easily to consume. So we do think that even as an administrator of an IT system within a large organization, it's critical, and we're ensuring that we sort of tick all the boxes that need to be ticked. But also, those experiences should not be an afterthought. So they're central to how we're doing enterprise. So that's on the IT and administrative perspective side of things. On the other side of the fence is it's important that to us that Canva has never been a tool that's been forced on our community. It's something that people have adopted because they love using it. So that does mean we have to continue investing, and I can talk a bit about what we're doing to enhance our visual suite, which is sort of the building blocks of the Canva platform, but also making sure that it's set for enterprise use or team use. So great collaboration features, the ability to work with multiple brands within an organization, the ability to leverage creative assets that perhaps the design team that you mentioned earlier could create, but then scale them out across the entire organization to get that leverage that hasn't been possible before. So, I think both on the IT side, but also on the end user side, we've really focused on making those experiences enterprise ready and really delightful.
Enterprise software is usually not supposed to be fun, but Canva is not that. So, is there a different UI, a visual experience that you have to plan to get into a very serious enterprise kind of a business?
Yeah, so it's actually really exciting. What we've done is we've done the biggest redesign of Canva since our launch a decade ago as part of this announcement. I would absolutely say that we've continued the fun of Canva, but brought it into an enterprise setting. So what does that mean? That means we've redesigned our homepage, as an example, in a way that allows organizations to customize it. So it bring through their brand, but also allow them to highlight content, whether it's documents or presentations or whiteboards or websites or video, all the things you can create in Canva to highlight documents for their teams. So we have a new starring experience where teams or administrators can highlight that content right at the top level so that they can use it as a mechanism, not just to create content on Canva, but to allow teams to consume it. We've also done a full redesign of our Canva editor. So I think, as you were saying, both you and your son, it will feel familiar to you in all the ways that you're used to, but it's just that much faster. It's that much quicker to leverage brand templates, that much quicker to access assets that your organization might have that you want to use in your designs. Also building in workflows. So a really critical aspect of what we're doing now is allowing organizations to tie in the data they use and to bring those into designs. So really thinking about Canva not just as a one point in the design process, but really about consolidating all these workflows that sit around designs. And today, enterprises need to use multiple tools for that. So, which introduces that complexity and that kind of that you're describing in an enterprise. We feel that you can bring the simplicity that Canva is known for to entire workflows. That's something we particularly focused on with enterprise.
Is this also going to interact with the other tools that an enterprise would typically use? Let's say, is it going to plug into a PowerPoint or any other workflow that they would have from maybe a different company?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the best way to think about Canva is there's three big consolidations that Canva is doing as a platform. The first is what we are sort of known and loved for, which was we consolidated the design process. So, if you go back a little while pre-Canva, the design process actually involved many tools. So you needed fonts from a font foundry and stock photos from photo libraries and layouting tools and all these things. And Canva really consolidated that into one platform. What we're doing today is enhancing that consolidation on the design process, on the design part of the process. But there are two other consolidations that we are doing. One is what you're describing, which is really consolidating workflows. So if your team uses Slack, for example, or Microsoft Teams to communicate, the way Canvas shows up there in those tools is really seamless. We are then also consolidating this explosion of capabilities that has happened over the last 12 to 24 months in the world of AI. So there have just been a plethora of new possibilities creatively that AI can do. But as an organization, you're faced with that complexity of having to use really dozens and dozens of tools and new ones popping up all the time to achieve some of those creative things. So what we're doing, the third big fragmentation that we're trying to address for organizations is to really consolidate that range of AI capabilities, whether you want to go from text to an image or text to a graphic, or have a creative writing partner when you're creating a document or a presentation, and even really capabilities that are unique to Canva, like moving between documents. So, one of the things we're seeing a lot of usage in large organizations is using Canva as a brainstorming tool with our whiteboarding feature. Now, that's this incredibly engaging human experience where you bring your team together and they're brainstorming. What we can then do with AI is with a single click, we can turn that brainstorm into a long form document that can be distributed amongst the rest of the team or to consolidate that knowledge. So, across the design, workflows, and AI, we see today a fragmentation that we are consolidating onto a single platform.
Is there a need to sort of upskill users to understand the full potential, of the platform? Like somebody who's been using it for a few years, and every time I go there, I discover something new or a new way to do something or a new feature that's there. So, is there a training module that you would, maybe have for the enterprises?
Yeah, it's interesting. So we work closely with large enterprises on deploying Canva to organizations. We have built Canva though from the ground up to be easy to use. It's one of our core company values is actually make complex things simple, and that process of discovery is actually is an enjoyable sort of creative endeavor. And what we see is you start using it for relatively basic things, but because it's simple as a tool, we've been really intentional about constraining it to not have dozens of buttons and complex functionality and to actually, still maintain that simple UI means that people do just, as they use it more, they get better at it, and the features they use expand. An important thing about Canva as well is because you can use it for multiple different mediums, so from video to presentations to whiteboards to docs, you're learning the interface once, and then you can use it for all those different tools. So what we're finding organizations love is they don't have to actually train their employees on multiple different platforms that are all changing all the time. You learn the Canva editor once, and then regardless of what you're trying to create, you have that same experience. So that's how we're finding people use it, and we're constantly striving to sort of maintain that hallmark simplicity.
Even though it's a DIY platform, enterprise sort of assumes that there will be support, right? Is that something that you would now need to switch on for these users? Because again, you would have potentially thousands of people working just for one company on the platform.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what we offer. So everything from getting organizations started by offering design services, helping them produce templates they want to use for the organization, if that's something they want, so they can hit the ground running with an entire corpus of templates for all those different document types, through to training. Interestingly, one of the exciting features we're launching today with this announcement is Canva Courses, and that works in both ways. One, it's a mechanism for us to upskill or empower organizations to upskill their staff on Canva, but also actually to upskill their staff across the board. So, what we found is that people have been producing educational content for their organizations on Canva, but historically they've had to go off Canva to allow their teams to consume and engage with those learning materials. So with Canva Courses, all that can happen on the platform. You can you can create lessons, you can then assign them, you can track progress. So it becomes this really easy to use, lightweight way of upskilling your team, either with materials about Canva itself, which is gets a little bit meta, or any other topic that you want to use to teach your team about.
Before we wind up, just one last question. Are there some bespoke services that you are thinking of which you can offer to enterprises? Because some of them might come up with very unique problems which you will need to think of differently and solve differently.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the main thing for us is just working really closely, hand in hand with enterprises. We work with some of the world's largest organizations, and many that from FedEx to Zoom and Salesforce, and you're absolutely right. These are huge organizations with very bespoke needs. We meet them in a number of ways. One is really partnering and providing those services. As part of our entree into the enterprise, it's not just about developing an enterprise product and offering. It's also about building internally an organization to support that, from sales to customer success, so that these large organizations do have teams of partners they can rely on. Another core aspect of the platform is the Canva API, and what that allows is to build applications on top of Canva and also integrate Canva into the applications of your organization. And that can be done, those applications can be offered to our entire community, or organizations increasingly will develop applications and we partner with them on this if needed, will develop applications that are for their bespoke needs that will only apply to their team or their organization. So there's both that human element and also building the technical capabilities to ensure that Canva works seamlessly with how organizations operate.
I can see Canva sort of becoming the creative backbone of huge enterprises, within a few weeks, because that's all it takes. It's so easy to use. And thanks for being on the show, Robert. It was very insightful. Again, opens up a lot of our minds on how you can use a platform that is so simple to solve very complex problems.
No, thank you so much for having me. It was great to have the conversation, and And thank you, Gabe. I loved hearing about the way you and your family use Canva.
Yeah. You're listening to Our Own Devices. We'll be back again next week with another guest and a lot more knowledge and insight. Till then, we are available everywhere you listen to your pods.